Hello, my name is John Paul Mac Isaac. I'd like to take this opportunity to explain my story and to disprove many of the rumors and speculations regarding my actions and my character. Where to begin? This is me when I was little, and this is my father. Wait, let me go back further. This is my grandfather, John Alexander Mac Isaac, a Scottish Canadian who, after World War II, flew and fought for the United States Air Force against the Soviets in the early parts of the Cold War. In time, my father, Steve Mac Isaac, would follow in my grandfather's footsteps, graduate from the Air Force Academy, and become a military pilot. He deployed to Vietnam to fly AC-119 gunships and continue my family's fight in the Cold War. That fight would consume over half of his decorated 30-year career defending freedom for America and its allies. For 2 generations, the Mac Isaac family has fought during the entirety of the Cold War against communism and the Soviets. That's why it's completely absurd that anyone would ever consider me to be a Russian agent or influenced by Russia. I'm proud of my family, I'm proud of my country, and I'm proud to be an American. If I could see well, I would have followed in my family's profession and joined the Air Force. But instead, I spend my free time going to veterans reunions and archiving and preserving true American heroes and their stories. Men who fought in the warmer parts of the Cold War against the very people I am accused of actually being. Another term that I have been labeled, which unfortunately is a death sentence in my industry, is hacker. And for the record, I am not, nor have I ever been a hacker. Those guys make so much more money than I do. I was hired, but never paid, to perform a data transfer from a MacBook Pro to an external hard drive. The signed paperwork clearly states the process and sets the expectations. There's no magic or Hollywood. The process is no different than dragging and dropping from a USB drive. The only difference is that I had to perform some surgery on the Mac to get it to boot to the point where I could recover the data. To imply that I'm a hacker or that information is hacked has had an irreversible impact on my business and my character. My name is John Paul Mac Isaac, and I am legally blind. I'm an ocular catenic albino. My vision is a direct relationship to my albinism. I have an operational vision of about 6 to 8 inches. I can see good enough to move around in a couple feet, but after that it's mostly blurry shapes. Through the use of visual aids and larger screens, I've been professionally repairing Macintosh computers for over a quarter of a century.
I think the issue for us is that the longer we don't understand these points, we're just going to keep showing up here and this is going to continue. And all we want to know is just the order of things, how they happened, so that we can get it right. And until then, you're going to continue to face these questions.
Aren't going to portray what your true motivation was. And I'm just warning, like, I understand that's what your stance is now. You don't want to give us that information. I will try to write this as straight as possible. This happened, this happened, this happened.
All of us, yeah.
All of us,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I appreciate it.
On October 14th, 2020, reporters ambushed me in my Wilmington repair shop, demanding that I confirm that it was really the client that had dropped off the laptop for service. I was concerned that if I had told them I was 100% sure that the client was who he said he was, that they would ultimately see my cane or use my visual impairment to discredit me. As it would stand, and ultimately these same reporters, without citing my visual impairment, would go on to actually question my ability to identify the client.
Thank you for sharing about your medical condition, you not being able to see potentially whoever walked in here.
The client came into my shop April 12, 2019. I'd never seen the client before, nor have I paid enough attention to the client to recognize him. But when checking him in, he provided a first name, a last name, an email address, and a phone number. The client did seem surprised that I didn't recognize him during the check-in process, but I made a further connection when I noticed that one of the 3 MacBook Pros had a sticker that represented the client's deceased brother's foundation. But after checking in the machine and performing a data recovery, I am 100% sure that the person in those videos, photos, and other data that I was hired to recover is the same person that came into my shop and dropped off that machine. The copy of the driver's license signature, the other documents and bank statement signatures all match the signature on the check-in document. With the realization of who he was and what I had seen on that laptop, concern for my safety grew. I can't imagine a family that would be comfortable with that kind of information being in the hands of someone they didn't know, especially if that family is running for president of the United States. My name is John Paul Mac Issac. Initially, I was reluctant to tell the media about my family's involvement with reaching out to the FBI. My efforts to protect my family from the press ultimately were used by the press to discredit me and discredit my account of my interactions with the FBI. This is my opportunity to clear things up.
See, that's what we were talking about earlier. You did something. You made some action that tipped the FBI off. And I don't think we've gotten clarity on that. Or maybe you didn't. Maybe Hunter Biden told the FBI, which I doubt.
I'm also confused because you told me that you did reach out to the FBI and that they didn't really do much with it. So was it that they came to you or that you went to them?
By the end of the summer, and feeling pressured by the events in the news, I turned to one of the smartest and most trusted people I know, my father. During a return trip from a gunship reunion in Salt Lake City, I had ample time to explain to my father what I had seen and voice my concerns. We decided that the best course of action was to contact the FBI and persuade them to collect the abandoned equipment and provide some level of security should someone come looking for it. We decided, out of an abundance of caution, that my father would reach out to the FBI through their Albuquerque, New Mexico field office, and hopefully get a feeling of how receptive they would be to helping us. So on October 9th, 2019, my father walked into the FBI office in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and spoke to an agent. This is when my father, a retired colonel of 30 years in the United States Air Force, described to me the most humiliating experience of his entire life. My father spoke to an agent that refused to give his name. Then that agent, after hearing my father's concerns, promptly made a copy of the paperwork, told my father to lawyer up and get out of his office. Defeated, my father and I spent the next 3 weeks wondering what we were going to do. And then on November 1st, my father received a phone call. On November 1st, 2019, Agent Joshua from the FBI reached out to my father, requesting to contact me. My father collected his contact information and passed it on to me. A quick Google search revealed that Agent Joshua had been making a name for himself, busting child predators. I instantly trusted and respected Agent Joshua and instructed my father to pass along my contact information. Soon, Agent Joshua called and requested a time to meet, and and talk about my concerns. I agreed, and on November 21st, 2019, Agent Joshua arrived at my home with an additional agent, Agent Mike. When seated in my living room, Agent Joshua asked if I had seen any child pornography on the client's laptop. I responded that I had seen a lot of questionable material, but I wasn't paying that close of attention to see if there were children involved. But it was a concern based on the personal and private nature of the material. When asked what I was concerned about, I told them it was the personal material as well as financial and political information that could be criminal or illegal and should be in the hands of the authorities. I was also concerned about individuals, both foreign and domestic, that might seek to do me harm based on what I knew and what I was in possession of. And I just wanted it out of my shop. They told me that they'd have to contact their legal team to see if this was something that they could take possession of, but they could not make any promises. Agent Mike texted me and requested a timeline of the events leading up to me reaching out to the FBI. I responded and awaited further instructions. About a week later, agents advised me that they wanted to come into the shop to make a forensic copy of the laptop, but unfortunately they would be unable to take possession or custody of the laptop at that time. A little disappointed and a little reluctant, I agreed to meet them at the shop December 9th, 2019. I first received a phone call in the morning at around 9:50 from Agent Mike, requesting that I text him the serial number of the hard drive that the client had abandoned. Both agents arrived at the shop at around 11 a.m. Agent Joshua immediately handed me a subpoena commanding me to appear before a grand jury. A note in the middle of the first page stated, "In lieu of personal appearance, please see Attachment A." Attachment A included two items: the MacBook Pro with serial number and the external hard drive with the serial number that was requested an hour earlier. I was ecstatic. I was getting everything that I wanted. I was getting protection from the FBI. I felt safe. I finally was getting this abandoned laptop and its questionable data out of my shop, and if there was evidence there, then it was finally in the hands of proper authorities. For the first time in months, I was at ease, and I thought that this whole ordeal might finally be over. I still can't believe everything that has happened. Like, I wouldn't have to be here telling my story if people had done their job and followed the law. I would still have a business. I would still have a place in my community. I'd still have my friends. I'd still be in my home, safe, sleeping in my own bed. But I no longer have any of these things because people refuse to do their job. After the FBI abandoned me, and at great cost, I tried to get the truth to the highest levels of our government. And I would discover that that cost, there's no end. I never wanted to cause any additional pain to the client. From what I had seen, he had been suffering for quite some time, and I wasn't going to add to that. My goal was to get the criminal material to law enforcement and to the Department of Justice, and never to the press or to profit off of selling the story to a tabloid. I felt bad for him because I fully understand what it's like to have a powerful father impose his will upon his son. But my father's will included a sense of honor, respect, dignity, and pride, not only for myself, but for my family and my country. When I was young, I admired my father for his courage and his bravery. And recently,
his 2 lessons have proved invaluable to getting me through my ordeal. And I wish every son had a father like mine. I was 25 years old on September 11th, 2001, and after the attacks on our nation, I remember reading and hearing, "If you see something, you say something." And I never forgot those words and why they exist. They're a tool for protecting the nation and its citizens. And it's the responsibility of the citizen to sound the alarm when there's danger. And I saw danger. I remember thinking to myself, if I get exposed, there's the potential that I could lose everything. And I thought that I would actually be okay with losing everything as long as the truth got out and I was safe and the people I cared about were safe. So here I am. My business is closed. I'm forced from my home. And I'm waiting for the next chapter of my life to unfold. But I know that if it were to happen again, and I was put in a similar situation, I would sacrifice it all and again sound the alarm. My name is John Paul Mac Isaac, and this is the story of what happened after I gave the laptop to the FBI.
Well, it sounds like you just said you sought out help from several people, and so there was an intermediary.
The stakes are incredibly high, and hedging on this question, it could impact the safety of a lot more people than just the people you care about.
It wasn't long after my December 9th interaction with the FBI that events transpired that would cause my previous concerns for my safety to return. Agent Mike instructed me that moving forward we should only communicate through text message, no email. He also said that if somebody came into the shop looking for the laptop, that I was to contact him immediately and stall them for 24 hours and agents would return the equipment. When leaving the shop that day, Agent Mike turned to me and said, "In our experience, nothing ever happens to those that don't talk about these things." And at that time, I was just so happy that the laptop was leaving my shop, I didn't hardly notice the odd instructions or the thinly veiled threat. Shortly after agents collected the laptop, I received a call from Agent Mike requesting assistance in accessing the drive. I assisted them by providing phone support until they were able to access the drive and its data. I thought that it was odd that they required my help, and I was starting to get uncomfortable, but I figured I had no choice but to cooperate with the FBI. About 2 weeks later, I got a call at the shop from Agent Mike seeing if anybody had been in about the laptop. I said no, and that was the last I heard from the FBI. By that time, I was started to reflect on my interactions, and I was getting the feeling that the FBI's agenda no longer included my safety. Why was this laptop not in a lab being professionally inspected? Why was it not admitted as evidence during an impeachment? I was getting the feeling that the FBI was holding on to it until the owner returned for it, and that they cared more about protecting it than they were in protecting me. And ultimately, when it came to my safety, I was worse off than I was before. Towards the end of the summer of 2019, before my father reached out to the FBI, I did probably the smartest thing I've ever done in my entire life, and that was make a copy of the drive. I knew I had to get my story told, and I knew I had to find a voice to tell it. At this time, I was trying to have a business and I was trying to have a life. I knew that I needed to study the material on the drive and seeing on how there's no expectation of privacy when it comes to things you abandon. I chose a couple emails and files that I thought were topical and that would raise concern. Once again, I enlisted my father and later my uncle and arm them with the tools needed to go out and share my story.
I'm Colonel Steve McIsaac, United States Air Force retired. I was basically out of the story until a few days after the FBI had taken legal custody of the laptop. He did call me a few days later and said he thought it was strange that the FBI was calling him and asking him for technical support on the Mac laptop. I said, yes, that's very strange because the FBI has one of the best forensic labs in the world, just outside Washington, D.C. And I had assumed wrongly that the day that they took custody of the laptop, that it would be on an airplane and down there for proper disposition. So once again, I thought that the FBI had turned their back on us and they were trying to solve it in-house or just find out what was on the computer locally. So then I decided next best thing to do would be to go to Congress. There were two particular people I admired, one in the Senate and a young lad who was over on the Judicial Committee in the House of Representatives. I attempted to get through to both those offices, got the same thing. If you're not willing to talk to me, you can't talk to one of our lawyers. I said, you understand, I'm not supposed to talk to you. I can only talk to a lawyer. Sorry, have a great day. About this time, I upped the ante with my brother-in-law, Colonel Ron Chico Scott, to say, okay, we've got to do something. We're running out of time.
My name is Colonel Ronald J. Scott, Jr., United States Air Force retired after 34 years of service, to include my time at the Air Force Academy. J.P. McIsaac is my nephew. J.P.'s father, Colonel Steve McIsaac, reached out to me towards the end of 2019 to fill me in on the laptop and hard drive and their efforts to get the drive in proper hands once they discovered its contents. On May 8, 2020, I posted a message on the White House contact page indicating I had access to potential national security and criminal information and requested a referral to the Justice Department. No response. On May 13, 2020, I reached out to investigative journalist in response to an article he published regarding Blue Star strategies. No response. On May 18, 2020, I sent documentation via email and through the postal system. This consisted of a one-page summary of 3 documents on the hard drive and a copy of the redacted FBI subpoena. No response. On May 29, 2020, I sent a similar one-page summary and redacted subpoena via facsimile to Senator's office. No response.
I think it's a combination of a country that's so paranoid to be fed misinformation combined with other major world issues at the time that caused my cries for help to fall on deaf ears. I was running out of time and I was running out of options, and I had one last hope.
Also breaking tonight, the third story in a row, there are new developments in the Hunter Biden email story. Here's senior political correspondent Mike Emanuel in Washington. Good evening, Mike.
Brett, good evening. One senior federal official tells Fox News the FBI and DOJ concur with DNI John Ratcliffe's assessment that Hunter Biden's laptop and emails were not part of a Russian disinformation campaign. And the senior federal official says the FBI is in possession of the Hunter Biden laptop in question. That breaking moments ago. Also late today, a new photo has emerged in the New York Post showing former Vice President Joe Biden's son Hunter and purported Kazakh officials. It is undated. We're checking with our sources to get as much information as we can about it and the proper context, as we are with all the new revelations in this Hunter Biden story. Big tech about to be under the spotlight. Negotiations continue with Senate Judiciary, which is threatening subpoenas for the CEOs of Facebook and Twitter on Thursday.
We should have no more foot dragging. We should have proactive action here to address the concentration, to address the power, to address the censorship.
Some Republicans charging censorship, even election interference, as the social media platforms blocked distribution of the initial Hunter Biden email story.
You look at all the corruption in his family, it's tremendous corruption. Nobody's ever seen. I mean, that laptop, nobody has ever seen anything like that. He's gone into hiding.
President Trump accusing Joe Biden of staying away from reporters ahead of Thursday night's debate to avoid answering questions about his son Hunter's purported laptop and emails. The president also jumped on this May 2017 email with Chinese energy executives, verified by a source on the email chain, which discusses payment for 6 people. It includes a reference to 10% of the equity in the deal being held by H, assumed to be Hunter, for the big guy, which sources say is Joe Biden.
The vice president got a kickback, and everybody knows it, and they've known it for a long time.
Fox News has obtained images, including what appears to be a receipt from the Wilmington, Delaware computer repair shop signed by Hunter Biden. It also listed an email and cell phone number for him, and documentation from the FBI's interaction with shop owner John Paul Mac Isaac. It shows the Bureau took possession of an alleged Hunter Biden laptop and external hard drive last December. Senate Homeland Security Chairman Ron Johnson wants answers about the FBI's actions since then.
The FBI owes us a defensive briefing. If this shop owner is fraudulently peddling information to the Congress, that's a crime. The FBI ought to brief us on that as well.
Investigative journalist Glenn Greenwald notes the Biden campaign's silence on the authenticity of what's been reported.
No one in the Biden camp, not Hunter Biden, not Joe Biden, not anyone with the Biden campaign has even insinuated, let alone stated, that the emails are anything other than authentic.
The FBI has made every effort to stay out of the 2020 election after it was front and center in 2016 with Hillary Clinton's emails and her private server. But tonight, some breaking news. We are told by a senior federal official that the FBI is in possession of the laptop and that the FBI and DOJ concur with the Director of National Intelligence that this is not part of a Russian disinformation campaign. Brett?
Well, that's significant, Mike. We'll stay on that. More on this with the panel.
And now at the center of the Zero Experience Hunter Biden scandal and Biden, let's see, foreign syndicate issue. Well, is Hunter Biden's laptop, which reportedly contains, well, a lot of disturbing material. Now, computer repair shop owner John Paul Mac Isaac, he turned the laptop over to the FBI in December of 2019 after Hunter failed to retrieve it from his store 90 days later. And after facing endless slander and death threats, he even closed down his shop for a while and went out of town. He's now come forward to tell his side of the story. John Paul joins us for an exclusive interview. John Paul, sir, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Evening, Sean.
Let's get into the document side of it. So would it be a fair statement to say that what you saw concerned you, that you desperately wanted to get this out of your shop, as you said?
Correct.
So on both fronts there, I just want to make a thing. Let me go through the timeline with you, if I may, because you handed this over to the FBI. They finally took possession of it December 9th, 2019. Tell us what happened.
They came to the shop. Originally, they were planning to make a forensic copy of the drive. They couldn't guarantee that they could take the equipment away from me. So when they showed up and they handed me a subpoena requesting the drive, the paperwork, and the laptop, I was overjoyed that they were going to basically meet my demands, if you will. I wanted it out of my shop, and I wanted some kind of paper trail, some level of protection from the FBI. So I was pretty happy that they took it. A couple things happened during that exchange. A couple things were said that kind of, again, threw up some red flags with the FBI, just how they wanted me to handle it if he should come looking for it, how to contact them, how to stall whoever's looking for it so they could make arrangements to have the equipment returned to me. It did kind of, I was concerned.
So December 19th, to remind everybody, because impeachment on the issue of Ukraine took place with President Trump in January of 2020. And I guess my question is, what you saw in terms of documents, did that seem relevant to you to the debate that was explained?
Well, I had seen what would, again, I'm not an investigative journalist. It's not my day job when I was fixing Macs, but I saw some pretty compelling documents that definitely showed a pay-for-play scheme going on between Hunter Biden and his business dealings in Ukraine.
Joe Biden claimed that he didn't know anything about his son's business dealing. Will the documents that you saw contradict that, incontrovertibly contradict that?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of coordination. I saw a couple emails coming directly out of the White House to members of Burisma staff that, including the vice president's schedule, any discussions that were going on about Ukraine and policies with Ukraine were being sent directly to Vadim, who's the number 2 at Burisma.
Knowing what you know that was on it, knowing that you followed the proper chain of command, knowing that you were glad to finally get it out of your possession, but yet it was the smartest thing you ever did, handing it over for your own benefit and safety, and you wondered, why was it not admitted as evidence at impeachment? Now, is the evidence that compelling, that it was that relevant? I assume, my interpretation is that you saw a flagrant double standard existed. Am I right in my interpretation?
Well, what I saw was, two young men that were definitely capitalizing off of at least one of their father's positions to drum up more value in their efforts to get more money, and it was definitely a pay-for-play scheme that. I got my law degree at Rodeo Clown School, so I'm not Brian's better at the legal stuff, but it looked like this would be something that you would want to have a conversation with to another foreign leader about, because this was a lot of money that was exchanging hands, like a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. And you, sir, you still have a copy of the hard drive, is that correct?
Correct.
Would you be willing to share it with me? I would love to.
I'd have to talk to my attorney about that.
You'll take it under consideration? Yeah,
I have a very good attorney, and he's there to protect me for myself.
Listen, sir, all I've read about you and all I've heard that you said, you've been put in a horrible position, I argue unfairly so, and you just saw something, you said something. We ask people all the time, see something, say something, and you did. And it should not have happened to you this way. Is your business doing better now? Are you getting harassed less? Are you able to keep the doors open?
Well, I'm getting harassed a lot less since I had to disconnect the phone and the email server. The business has been closed since November 2nd. For my safety, I had to get out of town about that time. I just didn't know. The hostility in my area was getting to the point where I didn't want to incite any anger. So I thought it was best that I just close the business and then get out of town.
Thank you for sharing, sir. It's an important story. You did do the right thing. You're, I think, based on everything you said to me and what people have told me they believe is on it, that that what you did is important, honorable, and I hope all the harassment of you stops and you continue, your life hopefully in anonymity and peace. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, sir. Thanks for your time and letting me tell my story.
We taped this just before the show. Tomorrow, part 2, the majority of the interview, talks about video content. It's shocking. Here's a preview.
I saw material of a very personal nature. I don't want to obviously go into it. I don't feel comfortable about talking about the personal stuff.
The bigger part of that interview, part 2 tomorrow, news that hasn't broken before. More Hannity after this. All right, yesterday we spoke with the computer repair shop owner at the center of zero experience Hunter Biden scandal, John Paul Mac Isaac. He shared his story and provided exclusive details regarding the content on Hunter's hard drive and the documents that show very high likelihood Joe lied to the country when he said he had no knowledge of Hunter's business dealings. We did reach out to Hunter Biden's attorney for comment. For some reason, they just won't get back to us. As promised, part 2 of our exclusive Hannity interview. Now, you're visually impaired, but yet through the aid of devices, I mean, this is intricate work, I would assume, working on computers, right?
Yes, the screws are small, and the tools are pretty small. Luckily, there's a lot of visual aids. I use magnifying glasses, monocles. I even have a microscope that helps me do the close-in work.
All right. Now, you believed that it was Hunter Biden that dropped off these laptops. It's now, didn't they, since all of this broke, didn't they call you and ask for the laptops back?
Surprisingly, no. Nobody's approached me to collect the machine. Or
no, there wasn't an attorney that called. I had read an article. There was an attorney that had called seeking.
Well,
oh, okay. How do you know?
Yeah,
go ahead, sir.
October 13th, the day before the New York Post broke the story, I did get a call from an attorney representing Hunter, wanting to see if I still was in possession of the equipment. He made reference that Hunter was in sometime in 2017 and dropped it off. So I asked for his contact information, and he sent me an email.
Okay. Now, at the time, he dropped off 3 laptops in your store, only one of which was salvageable, which is the one in question, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you got to a point where you saw things on the laptop that were disturbing. What did you see?
I saw material of a very personal nature. I don't want to obviously go into it. I don't feel comfortable about talking about the personal stuff. I also saw files related to financing and other documents that just raised some red flags.
Let me see if I can get you to explain in a little more detail things of a personal nature. Anything that would shock the conscience of the American people if they saw it?
I don't know about shocking the conscience of the American people. I know that in the process of trying to verify data, you want to choose files that are going to be the most susceptible to having corruption. Video files are a good example of that. So when I was comparing the data from the drive that I was copying to and from, I would open up a large video file, and then I saw some disturbing content of a very personal nature.
So of a personal nature, let me ask you this. Would your initial gut reaction be one that would be, this is illegal what I'm saying? What I'm seeing, rather?
I didn't look at it.
In your non-lawyerly opinion, in other words, would an average person looking at those videos think this is totally illegal and needs to be reported?
Initially, the stuff that I saw from doing just the initial transfer, I would say the images in the video that I saw, I saw criminal activity, but I wouldn't go so far as to say it was criminal. I was more concerned about later on when the Ukraine was topical in the news during the summer of 2019. That's when I was getting more concerned, because I was seeing a lot of names and a lot of numbers that, again, I felt somebody would someday come looking for this laptop, and I needed to get it out of my shop.
I remember going over convincing our team, or others, to convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
Markman, by the way. Yeah, nice to meet you. Yeah. My name's John Paul. John Paul, okay. My pleasure. Have a good day.
You rescued him for 5 minutes there. You did him a favor. You rescued him for 5 minutes. You did him a favor.
There you go, okay. So now you can go back to your solitude, sir.
All right.
Nice meeting you, John.
Cheers. Hey, I get to go to solitude. See you guys later.
John Paul, so what everyone wants to know, and I think is like the definitive question, is who reached out to who first on Giuliani? I think that's the answer we need to have, or there to be some clarity on this.
Call from A00 service.
There's a whole bunch that happened in the middle, and I don't feel comfortable about talking about it because I'm still concerned. You know, it's.
When you say a whole bunch, was it a bunch pertaining to federal investigators or a whole bunch that pertain to other actors?
Those are so persistent. Well done to everyone.
You know what I mean, though? Was all this stuff happening there?
If we all agree to off the record, so I can find out if I can just ask you if I'm allowed to talk about this. Can we do that?
No.
Shit.
You can go call
So are
the
you
lawyer
saying-
and ask him, and then come back and talk to us.
So do you know how, did you send the copy to Rudy Giuliani's lawyer? Do you know how the copy of the hard drive got to his lawyer? No comment?
And why this is important is because the Rudy Giuliani connection to the impeachment inquiry last year going after Joe Biden, and now we're a couple weeks before the election, and so that's the sticking point right there.
Do you think this was a kind of known secret among Trump circles that even before you gave this to Giuliani, that this was out there, that there was this hard drive with potentially incriminating things?
I saw stuff that made me uncomfortable, and I felt afraid and fearful of repercussions, fearful of all due respect again to your professions, this kind of stuff, and I just wanted it to go away.
Have you heard from any of the Bidens, basically from the time that you received that laptop till today?
Did you call the FBI from the store or your cell phone?
Neither.
From your house?
They approached me.
The FBI,
The
how did the
FBI
FBI
approached you?
Just how would they know about it?
That's yeah, what I haven't. See, that's what we were talking about earlier. You did something. You made some action that tipped the FBI off, and I don't think we've gotten clarity on that. Or maybe you didn't. Maybe Hunter Biden told the FBI, which I doubt.
Yeah. I'm so probably going to run this off that. I hope you guys didn't come all this way for this, for me to say no comment.
Well, I'm also confused because you told me that you did reach out to the FBI and that they didn't really do much with it. So was it that they came to you or that you went to them?
I was afraid. I reached out to some people that I trusted that could possibly get me in contact with the FBI that I could trust. And then they showed up.
Is this over the internet that you reached out to these people?
No.
These were friends
You
of
know
yours.
these people for a long time?
Yes.
About how long?
Like law enforcement or civilians?
Don't talk.
And are they Republicans, or are they anything to do with politics?
No.
So just
no comment.
Just friends of years.
Yeah.
Multiple years.
People I trust.
Less than 10 years.
And so this was last winter, fall, and then they subpoenaed you on December 9th, according to you.
And you, oh, sorry.
I think the issue for us is that the longer we don't understand these points, we're just going to keep showing up here, and you're going to, this is going to continue.
Break me down.
And all we want to know is just the order of things, how they happened, so that we can get it right. And until then, you're going to continue to face these questions.
I still have an interest in protecting the people I care about. And because of that, I don't feel comfortable about talking about the pathway that led to the FBI showing.
Have you had any communications with Trump campaign officials, Republican officials, political operatives of any kind about this?
And what
No?
I don't understand is if Hunter Biden never came back, and you have his paperwork that says Hunter Biden on it, the Bidens are all over this town, and everyone kind of knows them. So, did you not try to reach out to anyone who may have known the guy who's running for president and say, your son's laptop is here?
That's generally not standard operating procedure. The customer leaves us multiple points of contact, and when the repair is complete, we make every effort to reach out and contact the customer, and then do it again, and then after 90 days, the product is considered abandoned, and we either recycle it, or we reclamate it, or take the parts that we used. If it's a repair that required parts, we take the parts back out, so we can use them in another thing, and then dispose of the machine.
And thank you for sharing about your medical condition, you not being able to see potentially whoever walked in here. But there's a part of the story that says that there was a Beau Biden Foundation sticker on the laptop. And so you saw that?
Yeah, it was on covered the Apple logo.
Okay. And so it's that and the form that you think you believe and are certain that it was Hunter Biden's laptop.
What other information on the laptop that leads you to believe it was Hunter's?
Personal information.
Is there any thought in your mind that this might not have been Hunter's and might have been somebody trying to set Hunter up?
No.
Okay.
No.
Did you ever review the contents of the hard drive, or did you just copy it and send it?
The paperwork says I checked in the machine to do a data recovery from a liquid damaged computer.
So you would have seen some contents of the hard drive.
I would have been
doing
responsible for dragging and dropping all the content.
all of the contents.
It was a mess.
And even though you couldn't see Hunter Biden, supposedly, who was here in this office.
No, I wouldn't have recognized him in a lineup. You know, I mean, it's like, obviously this is pre-masks on faces, which just screws me up 100 times more than now than it did a year ago. But, you know,
And sorry just to keep asking about this, but you just said you would have recognized him in a lineup.
I would not have.
But you would not have recognized him in a lineup.
But.
Okay.
Did you ever see Hunter Biden before that time?
No, I really wasn't paying that close of attention up until last summer.
And did you say, I mean, I had asked if you had known him growing up. Are you from Delaware? Or?
No. Well, I'm a military brat.
Okay.
And was stationed all over, but then escaped slowly over Delaware in the 90s.
So you were in the Air Force? Or your parents were in the Air Force?
So when did you realize that it was Hunter Biden's laptop? I'm just confused about this, because it was not when you walked in.
When he paused and said Biden, like I was expecting to know who he was.
Really? Tell us more about that interaction.
Oh, it's on the paperwork, so I guess I can
And I
asked him for his names, because the standard procedure is, I'm like, let me get you checked into the system. First name, Hunter. Second, last name, and then there was a long pause, and then it was Biden. And I'm like, oh. And then I kept working. I have tons of, well, not tons. I have a handful of famous people that come in here, but I either don't recognize them or I don't know who Sabrina LeBeau, the older sister from Cosby. She comes in or something. But I don't know, I didn't watch the show.
And do you remember, did he say why he was dropping off his laptop here in Delaware? Because we have reason to believe that he was not living here at that time.
Customer came in with 3 products, three liquid damage MacBook Pros. One was a complete write-off, and I diagnosed that at the counter. It's a 2016 or newer model where you can't do a data recovery if there's substantial liquid damage to the logic board. It's Apple solders the drives to the logic board and makes it impossible. The machine can't do this. There's just no way to take it off. This machine was a write-off. So I handed that back to him. The second machine had just a keyboard issue that was preventing him from typing in some of the keys weren't responding, also a liquid damage. So I gave him a keyboard. He said, when you come back in, bring back the keyboard so you can borrow this. So I can install his preferred keyboard. The other machine, I needed to disable some hardware inside of it that was liquid damaged and corroded that was causing it not to boot. So that required it being disassembled, turning it on, getting it to boot up off my network, and then manually transferring the data to the store server. And that's what we agreed on was the initial check-in for the repair.
What model was that one?
2016, I believe. MacBook Pro 13-inch.
And so it's a third computer that you found.
The third computer was the only computer that I checked in.
So you didn't see the contents of either of the two, not that keyboard damaged one, obviously not the one that was on the one that was totally damaged. You just looked at it and said, I can't do anything with this. Back in, or
it was a write-off. I just handed it back to him.
Okay.
I'm not going to check something in when I know that there's no hope for it.
What kind of liquid was it? You know?
I lack the facility to test it.
And do you remember if he said
And we don't think about in the tech world. We just don't think about what that is.
Definitely.
Yeah, we just.
Do you remember if he said if it fell in a lake or did he knock some water over?
I typically don't ask those kind of questions. Nobody wants to go into detail how they screwed up their $7,900.
And so I'm just a little confused because why would Hunter Biden have 3 computers that were all broken? He's not like a computer salesman.
Rich, I guess.
That he's rich.
Was it a mechanical hard drive or solid state hard drive?
All these products had solid state drives.
They were solid state drives.
Okay.
Have you ever in the past seen content on a device you're repairing and contacted authorities?
Absolutely. When I worked at Apple, oh shit, should I talk about it? I was a lead genius at the Aspen Grove Apple store many years ago, and one of my techs, a customer brought in a computer that had crashed, and if you own a Mac, you know, sometimes when you turn them off instantly and you turn them back on, whatever you had open would open up, back up automatically. So pretty much what you were doing at the time of death would show up, and that happened to have child pornography on it. So I was alerted. I locked the Genius door, called Littleton Police Department, and they came in and confiscated the machine.
So did you call the Wilmington Police Department this time?
No, because I did not see child pornography.
Did you see anything illegal, potentially illegal? Or what you thought to be illegal, which is why you contacted somebody about this?
I thought that if people knew what I knew, then my life would be in danger.
If people knew what you knew, the people as in Again, the Bidens are you talking about? I mean, because now people do know what email.
There's a whole lot of players in this.
The Ukrainians? Is that what you're talking about?
Zero service.
I mean, don't put that in there. Guy's got a hit squad.
That's what you're afraid of.
I
You're
don't need
afraid
to
of
do
the
it. Well, I'm afraid of somebody wanting to not make sure that I don't extort them for money, or that I don't do, things with their computer. They would silence people too. So I was afraid for the owner. I was afraid for the people that are involved on the content of it, and I just wanted it out of my shop.
So you're afraid for Hunter Biden, not of the Biden family?
I was.
You're afraid of Hunter Biden?
Not Hunter.
Or the Biden family?
Yeah, just the links that people will go to in this political climate to keep things a secret.
And you're afraid of the Ukrainians?
A little bit. They're not. Some of them are very nice people.
Okay.
So that brings me back to my question about why did you re-up it to Rudy Giuliani? If this all went away, because the FBI didn't do anything, and Joe Biden did not come after you.
Yet.
Do you genuinely think Joe Biden is putting your life in danger?
People that work for him, sure.
Do you think if Joe Biden were to be elected president, your life would be in danger? More so than it is now?
Probably about the same, but probably a little bit more. I don't know.
It seems like if there's any risk that might exist, it would have grown. It would have gotten worse in September after you had transferred the information to Rudy Giuliani's attorney. Like, if you're concerned before that, I just don't understand why you would put yourself out there farther, portray what your true motivation was. And I'm just warning, like, I understand that's what your stance is now. You don't want to give us that information. I will try to write this as straight as possible. This happened, this happened, this happened.
All of us, yeah.
All of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
And with that, with no
comment,
comment, people are going to read it ambiguous. This guy is a partisan. This guy is secretly working with Giuliani. I just want you to know.
That's the point that they care about.
Yes. Exactly.
Giuliani.
Yeah, just so you know that. That's how it's...
And that's fine.
The facts
that's
with
fine.
the ambiguity is going to be perceived that way.
Did you share anything in addition to the hard drives, information from the hard drives with anyone, such as any closed camera, closed circuit video footage to prove that it was Hunter Biden who walked in or anything of that nature?
No, the cameras are only really meant to be a deterrent for theft, and then if something does get accidentally taken, I usually review it within 24 hours to see what happened and then address it as it comes. So the drive that's in there is only like a terabyte, so it only holds like 2 months.
And I just want to expand a little bit more on why we want to know about the Rudy Giuliani connection, because there are questions if this is just completely made up, maybe from hacking from the Russian GRU of Burisma, because that was hacked last year, at the end of last year, around the same time. So if you gave the laptop or hard drive directly to Rudy Giuliani and you say, this is everything on it, I mean, that kind of takes out some of that narrative that these are completely made up emails, and the Joe Biden campaign is saying that the meeting never happened. So therefore, there's going to be questions about the email, if it's true or not.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Do you remember seeing that email on his laptop while you were going?
When I was transferring the data, there was a lot of things that I saw on the laptop that were very specific to him and his feelings.
And
which raised concerns, and then that's why I approached the FBI.
Right, and specific to a meeting between Joe Biden and the head of Burisma. Just because, like you said, if you can say that, that would help give some veer the conversation away from this is all fabricated, maybe.
Well, I mean, it's. I wish it was fabricated. I wish he had paid his $85 bill and picked it up. Because then this would have happened.
I guess I'm just confused on the timeline. So when you initially looked at this laptop, you had already heard about the allegations of corruption and improper use of Joe Biden's title. You already were aware of all those allegations when you saw these emails, and that's why it stood out, and that's why you reached out?
Yeah, that's about accurate.
Okay.
Do you think that person, that friend of yours who linked you with the FBI in any way double-crossed you for shit? No. They worked in good faith in your interest, you think?
Are you still in touch with them?
No comment.
No comment.
Well.
Are they okay?
Yeah, I think they're okay.
Okay.
I haven't talked to anybody today.
Okay. But
John,
recently?
If you're afraid for your safety, why did you open up your store today instead of just keeping the door locked? So you wouldn't
I made
get...
promises to my customers.
Yeah.
And trust me, I want to get out of here right now.
So do we. But the Rudy Giuliani point, and I'm sorry to just keep harking on this and you, but you've now, since we first walked in at 11 o'clock, you've almost answered all of our questions, which we're very which we're very grateful for. Besides the Rudy Giuliani point, and Rudy Giuliani is deemed by many people to be a shady character who does not play straight for information, and so we need to know if you reached out to him or if they reached out to you.
No comment.
That will indicate to people that you are working with Rudy Giuliani for this. That is how that will be read.
Right now, I'm probably screwed any which way, so it doesn't really matter. I mean,
The only thing
does matter.
Yeah. The only thing, there's so much misinformation out there, so much bad faith acting. Like and I'm not just saying this. I mean, I want the information, but also like it's always refreshing the few times you get somebody who is actually speaking frankly
and you've
saying,
been very honest.
I did this. You have been honest.
And
Like,
also
I did this for this reason.
The stakes are incredibly high.
They are.
I mean, this is not just your life. These are the lives of arguably the whole country and possibly the balance of power in the world. We're talking about the presidency. We're talking about the leader of the free world. We're talking about implications for an election that is 20-something days away. And hedging on this question, it could impact the safety of a lot more people than just the people you care about.
No comment. Because that's not what is important. What's important is that, you guys do this to everyday people all the time?
No, this is a big story.
It's a tough job.
What's the important part?
I don't know if I should talk anymore. I'm worried.
That makes it seem like you're worried about Rudy Giuliani. And that
No, I'm worried about saying the wrong things and getting in more trouble than I already am. I'm worried about my safety, salvaging what I can out of my business.
Why do you think you're in trouble? Like, what trouble are you in?
There's I mean, again, all due respect to your profession, there's like 1 million press people have been beating the hell out of me today, and it's like, I
mean, presumably everybody knew that. You gave this to the FBI. Somehow it got to Rudy Giuliani.
They told me that nothing ever happens to people that don't talk.
Nothing ever happens to people who don't talk.
Who told you that?
The FBI. And that made me scared. Because that's not something I would expect law and the highest branch of. I don't think it, don't.
I got a quote.
It was more along the lines of, in our experiences when stuff like this happens, nothing ever bad happens to people that keep quiet.
You're now alleging that there's an FBI cover-up.
That's what you had indicated earlier, too.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it, kind of. No shit. No comment. It's too late. I mean, it just feels a little odd, don't you think?
I think on that, if that's what you believe, you need to give us more.
That's one reason why I'm
afraid. A name of the FBI agent. You said they came from the Baltimore office?
Yeah, we can go ask them.
Or the Philadelphia.
We can do this to them.
Yeah.
Well, I don't. Again, everybody's got a job to do, and I'm not trying to make anybody get in trouble.
So who was it? What was the name of the agent?
Is it on the subpoena?
So I tried to get the subpoena. It's not, the full subpoena is not on the New York Post site.
I don't feel comfortable about doing that because, I know if
if you guys.
If I don't want to talk to the FBI again because they're probably not going to be very thrilled to talk to me, and I don't want to be put in that situation.
Why wouldn't you
So-
be thrilled?
If you didn't feel like the FBI was handling it or on top of it, then did you reach out to Giuliani?
No comment. Sorry. You guys are nice people. Sure, I can't get you guys a water.
No, we're good.
How many
It's not
different
from Russia.
how many FBI agents have you had contact with, either in person or via email or phone? Is it just those two? You said 2 agents who came here that day, one from Baltimore and one from Wilmington.
I'm not sure where they were from.
Are you not sure where they were from?
But I know Baltimore branch has a Wilmington office.
And you were sure they were FBI, not prosecutors from the district, the U.S.
Pretty sure, because the one, in all the email correspondence is special agent.
Can we see that?
Special agent. Special agent.
I don't know. I'm scared. The FBI, you don't want to mess with because.
But you went to the FBI.
I thought I was following the chain of command.
The only way if the FBI is up to any wrongdoing, then you coming clean right now and telling the truth would actually help you.
Great point.
Or make me a target.
I mean, they already know that you are in the news. They already know that you're the name of your shop.
And they don't know what I'm saying because I'm trying to say no comment.
Right, but if they feel like you've left something out and there's a reason to silence you, potentially if you don't speak on it now, you're at more risk than if it was already out. The public knew your version of the story, and it would look very, very suspect if something happened to you after that.
And very bad for the FBI.
Chance I take, right?
I don't know if people are gonna believe that easily, though. I mean, I know it's scary, but because it just seems like they could just say, no, we didn't find any wrongdoing there that was specific. Because what do you want them to do? Arrest Hunter Biden, or I just don't know what the goal was. What they didn't do right.
And the FBI didn't leak this information. Like, this story is not, the source of the story was not the FBI as far as I know. The source of the story was Giuliani. So,
yeah,
like, you gave this information to the FBI, presumably, I mean, if we're being gracious to them, they looked at it, they said, there's nothing there. That's it.
Well, if that's the case, then I don't know.
So other than just like a niche, on a notch on the timeline, why is the FBI even relevant to this? If this was, ultimately sparked this story because of Giuliani and you giving him that information in September.
I don't know how to respond to that.
I guess, has the FBI contacted you in the last month?
No. The last
Or since you gave the information to Giuliani, did they contact
there
you?
were the tech support phone calls to get them set up, which then again raised some flags, like why is this?
You said calls. The first time you said it was one call. Now you're
Well,
saying
they
it's
called
multiple calls?
shortly after and then called the next day. They needed some other advice.
What was the other advice they needed the next day?
What type of cable to buy?
Cable for what?
Powering.
For power?
But they're the FBI. They don't know how to do that.
Scratch my head.
Yeah,
Again, there was that. There's.
So since you gave the laptop and the external hard drive to Rudy Giuliani's lawyer, you haven't heard from anybody?
No comment.
I think that's just what the story hinges on. Because people want to know because it questions your integrity and honesty, even though we all think you've been very honest for the past 2 hours or so. If you're not going to answer that question, then they think you are working with Rudy Giuliani to go against Joe Biden because you voted for Donald Trump in 2016.
I'm probably not going to have any integrity by the end of the day anyway. So I'm pretty much at the point where I don't care what people think.
If you are a political operative, that's okay.
I'm not a political operative.
Okay.
I am just a guy that just had something that I wanted out of this shop. And
Why didn't you throw it away?
Because
that didn't seem like the right thing to do.
You might have been taken advantage of by a political operative. Does that cross your mind?
Yeah, and that's why I was very careful or tried to be very careful up until the end. But
Did it feel wrong giving some information from someone else's hard drive if they weren't doing, if there was nothing legally wrong, like child pornography was? Does it feel wrong to give that information to somebody else? Have you ever done that before in a case that wasn't child pornography or some other legal situation?
I so want to respond to that, but I don't think I should.
Why didn't you save the security footage?
Because it's just the customer. Because what?
But it wasn't just, what he brought in, and you saw the data and the contents of it, it triggered you to realize that this was a big deal.
I wasn't triggered until later.
Till past the 2 months mark of the servers?
Yeah, it was middle of the summer.
So was this
when I started to get concerned, and because you see stuff in the papers and the news and online, and you're like, I recognize that name. I recognize that name.
And you're like, holy shit, I got this guy's laptop, and you just start scrolling through to see if anything's on there, or?
No comment.
And was that this summer or last summer?
Last summer.
2019.
Are there any other copies?
Not that I know of.
So you only created that one copy of the hard drive?
There was a copy that I created at one point in time as a safety precaution, for fear that if something bad happened to me, then I gave the drive to somebody that would hopefully leverage it to get me out of whatever trouble or hole I've been placed in.
Is that the same person who you contacted before, who you were saying is a close friend of yours? That's the same person. So that person also has a copy?
Not anymore.
Has any other of the Biden family ever dropped off equipment here?
Not that I know of.
Is there any other equipment that you have that has aroused your suspicion about with regards to this kind of somewhat political aspect?
So you obviously have a favorable opinion of Rudy Giuliani.
Why do you say that?
Because a lot of people don't, and if they were accused of working with Rudy Giuliani, they would say, no, I hate that guy.
I don't like hate.
I don't like that guy.
I'm not that type.
He doesn't tell the truth.
I'm not built that way. When you're afraid and you don't know anything about the depth of the waters that you're in, you want to find a lifeguard. Oh shit.
Rudy Giuliani was your lifeguard.
No comment. No.
John Paul, I think you just need to confirm to us that you reached out to Brian Costello, or Brian Costello, the lawyer for Rudy Giuliani, reached out to you. It needs to be one or the other.
Does it have to be?
Yes.
Why?
Because that's the truth, and you've been so honest, and I think...
But if I say no comment, it's like...
No.
I'm still not making...
No, that's an answer.
I mean, you just said you sought out a lifeguard.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
I sought out a lifeguard with my friend that knows more about this stuff than I do, and I sought out help from a plethora of people, and you'd be surprised how nobody wants to talk to you.
And so, when you were at the end of the line, you said, "All right, I'm going to talk to Rudy Giuliani's lawyer. No one else will help me. I'm going to get them to help me."
No comment.
Well, it sounds like you just said you sought out help from several people, and so there was an intermediary between you, someone, and Rudy Giuliani team.
No comment on that part, but I made... Oh, shit.
I mean, you're exactly right. A lifeguard.
I needed help.
I thought the FBI was going to help me, and I got the overwhelming sense that they weren't going to help me, and I needed to do something else.
Help you to do what?
Keep me safe.
So, after you had given this information to the
Be
FBI,
honest about what they were doing.
You're talking about the Bidens being honest about what
No,
they
the FBI.
So the FBI got this information, presumably didn't do anything with it, or still is conducting an investigation. You still felt unsafe months after that. I don't understand why you felt unsafe.
One of the agents called me up like 3 weeks later, I want to say 3 weeks later, just to see if anybody has come in looking for it yet. Because if they do, give us a call, stall them for a day, and we'll be back in with it.
And did they indicate that that would be the Bidens or the Giuliani?
Biden. Anybody representing Hunter would come looking for it, let us know, and we'll get it back in your hands. Stall them for a day. Don't email us, only text.
But in this, the way that you're thinking about it, you would say you're kind of alleging that the FBI is protecting Biden.
No, I'm not alleging that
Protecting
at all.
Biden, but then you're also saying they're going to try to go after him because you need to stall him. You're like working in cahoots with them.
What? I missed that last part.
You're like working in cahoots with the FBI by saying stall them, answering the phones, things like that.
Well, they're asking me
Mhm.
to, if somebody comes looking for this, that I need to kind of tell them about, it's in our recycling facility, and let me go take a look, and I'll dig it out, and I'll give you a call tomorrow. And then I was instructed to text one of the agents and then say, bring it back.
Text on any sort of messenger in particular?
Just regular text.
And so then why did you go, or you, or the intermediary that you have between you and Rudy Giuliani's team, if you're scared for your safety, why would you go to Rudy Giuliani, who's a private citizen? Is it because of his connection to President Trump? Or why was he the beacon of hope for you?
No comment.
You obviously went for some reason. And I don't understand why you can allege wrongdoing of the FBI and not of Rudy Giuliani. You're like really standing by him.
Well, I'm trying to say no comment on board of you. I mean, if that's the narrative that you want to push, that's fine.
Well, what protection can he provide you?
What?
Rudy Giuliani. What? You were scared, so you go to him, and he protects you how?
Well, I don't think I said that to that extent.
Okay. Well, you're scared somehow.
I've been a little afraid for over a year and a half.
So then,
but how does he assuage that fear? How does he protect you? I mean, tell.
I don't feel comfortable about talking about.
And so you feel duped by him because he leaked it to the New York Post.
No, I don't feel anything about that.
You don't have any animus towards Brian Costello, the Rudy Giuliani lawyer who turned on the New York Post to this.
No, I have no opinion on the matter.
Okay.
I mean, I prefer this outcome as opposed to getting shot jogging in the morning, but, it's...
Okay.
So the fear is that if this had not come out, you would be shot to keep it. Somebody in the Biden camp would shoot you so that it would be.
I don't think
they would
take matters into their own hands like that.
Okay, but I mean, what I'm saying is, why would it doesn't make sense, I guess is what I'm saying, because it was already in the FBI's hands. They would have had to have gone after all those FBI agents that knew about it, right? Like if they took you out of the picture, the hard drive is still there. It's going, like, presumably there was a launch of some sort of FBI investigation. How would taking you out of the picture protect the Bidens from this information? That doesn't make sense to me.
What if they perceive me as a threat?
But the FBI had the information, so you can go out.
I knew what was on there.
So did they.
And then they probably knew I had a copy because I was pretty vocal about not wanting to get murdered, so I'm going to have a copy.
To the FBI, you were vocal about that?
I'm pretty sure they figured it out.
How would they have figured it out?
Because they're the FBI and they're investigators.
But they can't.
But they can't figure out a computer cord.
Yeah.
That raises my concern about, did that computer go to where it was supposed to go?
So what happens, John Paul, when we go to the FBI? We've already gone to the FBI, and they say no. They say no comment. But what happens when we go with all these specifics? There's 2 agents from Baltimore or Wilmington, and they say we have no record of that. We will, and then it's FBI versus you.
That's fine.
Okay. And you keep bringing up this killing of Seth Rich, the conspiracy theory. That has been thoroughly debunked.
What theory?
The DNC murder and the jogging in the morning.
I was just giving the example of how, you know,
well, those
Epstein didn't really hang himself. This guy gets shot jogging. You know, that's.
So you think those things are true?
I
think the government kills people secretly.
I think that not the government as an entire entity, but I think that there's a history in this country of people with political motives doing horrible things.
And so name some examples.
I don't want to be on the receiving end of that. I could Google it, I guess, if you like. But
so you have no problem if Joe Biden's elected president?
Well, as long as he doesn't have a vendetta.
And you?
I mean, I don't care like this. I'm getting exhausted.
Just one more thing. I mean, this story's going to.
Steve Jobs used to say that a lot.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I understand. So this story's going to come out eventually. At some point, there's going to be the FBI internal sources. Giuliani's going to. It's going to be clear who gave who what. It's going to be clear that Giuliani came to you, or you came to Giuliani, or the FBI did this or didn't do this. Eventually, I mean, usually with these sorts of things, the facts come out. They take a while. So, I guess this is my pitch to you to speed that process up.
I don't feel comfortable about speeding anything up right now. I just trying to do the right thing that I felt was right. That was honest, and I tried to go the proper channels, and I still think I did the right thing.
I mean, Pete, you wanted this, push back where I'm wrong. You wanted this information out there. You wanted people to know this. So you
I didn't necessarily want
you didn't see
the entire world to know this. I just wanted it out of my store. I wanted it to be. I wanted some level of safety and security because somebody else, supposedly a high enough branch on the food chain of the government, to offer me some level of protection.
But why wasn't that safety and security achieved after you gave it to the FBI? Why did you need to go to Giuliani? Or why did you need to give it to Giuliani after they came to you, whoever came to him first?
I don't feel comfortable about explaining the details that transpired between December 9th and beginning of September.
Good evening. My name is Tony Bobulinski.
I served as a lieutenant in the United States Navy with high security clearance. My father and grandfather both served for decades in our country's armed forces. Since leaving the Navy, I've been involved in various successful businesses, both in this country and abroad. I'm making this statement to set the record straight about the involvement of the Biden family, Vice President Biden, his brother Jim Biden, and his son Hunter Biden in dealings with the Chinese. I've heard Joe Biden say that he's never discussed business with Hunter. That is false. I have firsthand knowledge about this because I directly dealt with the Biden family, including Joe Biden. I have also heard that Vice President Biden said on Tuesday that Senator Ron Johnson, the chair of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, should be ashamed for suggesting that Biden family sought to profit from their name. Well, here are the facts I know, and everything I'm saying is corroborated by emails, WhatsApp chats, agreements, documents, and other evidence. And the American people can judge for themselves. I brought, I guess, for record, 3 phones that spanned the years 2015 through 2018. These phones have never been held by anybody else besides myself. I was told this past Sunday by somebody who was also involved in this matter that if I went public this information, it would bury all of us, man. The Bidens included. I have no wish to bury anyone. I've never been political. The few contributions I have made have been to Democrats. But what I am is a patriot and a veteran. To protect my family name and my business reputation, I need to ensure that the true facts are out there. In late 2015, I was approached by James Gilliar, whom I had known for many years, about joining him in a deal which he said would involve the Chinese state-owned enterprise CEFC China Energy and what he called one of the most prominent families in the United States. I was informed first by Gilliar and then by Hunter Biden and by Rob Walker, who was working with the Bidens, that the Bidens wanted to form a new entity with CFC, which was to invest in infrastructure, real estate, and technology in the U.S. and around the world. And the entity would initially be capitalized with $10 million and then grow to billions of dollars of investment capital. After months of discussion, I agreed at Gilliar and Hunter Biden's request to become CEO of the entity to be called Sinohawk. Sino representing the Chinese side, Hawk representing Hunter Biden's brother Bo's favorite animal. And between February and May 2017, we exchanged numerous emails, documents, and WhatsApp messages concerning Sinohawk and its potential business. On May 2nd, 2017, the night before Joe Biden was to appear at the Milken Conference, I was introduced to Joe Biden by Jim Biden and Hunter Biden. At my approximately hour-long meeting with Joe that night, we discussed the Biden's history, the Biden's family business plans with the Chinese, with which he was plainly familiar, at least at a high level. After that meeting, I had numerous communications with Hunter, Walker, Gilliar, and Jim Biden regarding the allocation of the equity ownership of Sinohawk. On May 13, 2017, I received an email concerning allocation of equity, which says 10% held by H for the big guy. In that email, there's no question that H stands for Hunter, big guy for his father, Joe Biden, and Jim for Jim Biden. In fact, Hunter often referred to his father as the big guy or my chairman. On numerous occasions, it was made clear to me that Joe Biden's involvement was not to be mentioned in writing, but only face-to-face. In fact, I was advised by Gilliar and Walker that Hunter and Jim Biden were paranoid about keeping Joe Biden's involvement secret. I also had a disagreement with Hunter about the funds CFC was contributing to Sinohawk. Hunter wanted $5 million of those funds to go to himself and his family, so he wanted the funds wired directly to an entity affiliated with him. I objected because that was contrary to our written agreements concerning Sinohawk. He said, referring to the chairman, his father, that CFC was really investing in the Biden family, that he held the Trump card, and that he was the one putting his family legacy on the line. He also said to me on May 17th, 2017, that CFC wanted to be my partner, to be partner with the Bidens. During these negotiations, I repeated to Hunter and others that Sinohawk could not be Hunter's personal piggy bank. And I demanded that proper corporate governance procedures be implemented for capital distributions. Hunter became very upset with me. CFC through July 2017 was assuring me the funds would be transferred to Sinohawk, but they were never sent to our company. Instead, I found out from Senator Johnson's September report that the $5 million was sent in August 2017 to entities affiliated with Hunter. Tomorrow, I will be meeting with the Senate committee members concerning this matter, and I will be providing to the FBI the devices which contain the evidence corroborating what I have said. So I will not be taking any questions at this time. I will not be taking questions at this time.
We're going to ask them anyway. Can you tell us a little bit more about this evidence that you're giving to the FBI?
The evidence sits on these 3 phones. I don't want to go into anything any further. This will all be discussed with Senator Johnson and his committee, and the American people can decide what's fact.
Who paid for you to be here?